Welcome back, everyone. I hope you are truly enjoying our episodes. But today, we are going to get into working through our journey, whether we're at a job, physical job, or if we're at home on Zoom and we work from home. And there are many different challenges and obstacles that we face that we're going to get into today. So let's do this. So Maggie,
Let's do it.
I just love when we start these, it's one of those things where it's just like, where are we going to take this today?
I know, right?
So,
and I love that, I love that it does sort of surprise us. And as we talked about the last couple episodes, it's healing for us.
Yes, it is.
Rediscuss a lot of these topics. So, discuss for the first time and or rediscuss. So sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. Like the point I want to bring up is we can't just take 2 weeks off and get better when we go through this cancer diagnosis and journey and healing process. So I'm curious, what might have been maybe one or two of your biggest challenges as you faced your career, your job, as you were going through your journey?
It's just such an interesting concept because in the corporate world you have sick days, right? When you go to a physical job and or even working remotely. I specifically had been running my own business for quite some time. So I have a very small team, Marla and Susie. And what was so challenging is that when I knew about, first of all the appointments, so that alone means required time off, right?
Right.
I didn't have a boss I had to go talk to about figuring this out. I just had to figure it out. Now, there's a part of me that thinks I was blessed with that. And then there's a part of me that thinks, oh shit, am I going to be a good boss to myself? So
exactly.
Yeah. So like being flexible and gracious with myself as I navigated this. So the appointments, I would say, even though more and more they plop on our calendar, right? As we know,
right.
The other aspect of that, which is such an unknown, unpredictable part, is how you're going to feel. And so I started, me, I have like my one big tool I used all the time that we created in Love Me Healing was this whole symptom tracker, which became so critical to be able to predict and see themes and trends in what I was feeling and when I was going to have my down days, if you will, what I call my red days, because those were the days I knew I needed backup. Those were the days I knew I couldn't talk to clients.
Right.
And so I guess for me, the biggest challenge was learning a new way to operate day in and day out, and a new way to sort of plan my weeks based on what I thought I might be feeling or what I thought I might be capable of.
Right. So you use this tool to actually track your signs and symptoms, so to speak.
Yes.
And then try to incorporate that with how you were going to work with your clients. Did you need some time off? Did you need to give your staff more things to do because Maggie couldn't do them at this point? And that brings up a whole nother guilt factor about passing off my work to somebody else.
Yes, exactly. And so I'll dive into my piece, and I know you have such a different experience with this.
Yes, I did.
Dina. But I will say that I've never been a very good delegator because I've always been do, go. I can take on so much stuff, right? I can just chug through it and be super productive. Well, I was very, very grateful to have team members that kept asking me, what can we take? What can we do? How can we lessen your workload? So a huge, massive shout out to Marla, who you guys will meet in future episodes, who was my godsend. Like she helped with the guilt because I didn't have to ask her. She was asking me for stuff. But that required her to know. And so there again, I was blessed to have that person that I was comfortable telling about all the things I was experiencing as I was navigating the appointments and or how I felt and that sort of thing. So I'm going to like put this back on you, Dina, because you had such a different experience with a boss and you were the boss of others and an employee that you had to navigate it so differently than I did.
Yes, I actually went into a job. I was a nursing lab instructor for the college that I actually graduated nursing school from. And during the entire cancer journey, I ran the simulation lab, which are mannequins that, act like patients. And the issue that I ran into was I needed certain days off so that the schedule can get covered. Because if I didn't run the mannequin, somebody else had to. And there was only a certain amount of people doing it. So that's where we needed to juggle the schedule. But what was so difficult at times is the days that I ended up getting sick. Okay. Which means that either I had bowel issues and I'd have to run to the bathroom, or I was too tired to continue my day. I just physically couldn't do it anymore. And it was difficult because now I kept worrying about, oh my gosh, my students needed me. What are my coworkers going to think of me? I'm just leaving. I'm leaving them high and dry. They need to find somebody to cover my workload. So it was very different for me. And it was also about the benefits that I had at the college that I worked at. They had wonderful benefits so that there was a medical leave that I could use certain hours for my treatments and my surgeries without dipping into sick time, personal time, vacation time yet. So I was very fortunate with that kind of benefit that I had.
I love the point about how you were feeling when you were leaving your team members and your coworkers. Like they would feel like you're leaving them high and dry unless you were able to confide in them, right? That's like such a double-edged sword.
Exactly. Yeah, and my coworkers were great. I have to admit, my coworkers were great. At one point, I had a negative experience with having to go to work. And what I mean by negative is that because I was at work and I would get sick or I didn't feel good that day, I would automatically, it's something that I did because I think I'm being professional enough and saying, listen, I'm not feeling well today. I want to get through the day, but in case I can't, I need to go home. And, my immediate supervisors, I had two of them, and they were like, oh, just try to get through the day. Or, we're short staffed. I don't know how this is going to work today. It was things like that.
And then gosh,
I would push myself for the day, get through it. And then nobody ever checked on me during the day while I was an 8-hour shift. And, then I would leave at the end of the day, say goodbye to my immediate supervisors. And they would turn around and pass a comment and say, oh, you got through the day, I see. And that makes, and I want our audience to not feel guilty about that. This is your journey. You have to advocate for yourself, whether you're in a situation like this or not, or a different type of situation. It's just like, wait a second, time out here. I'm the one that matters. I'm the one that's going through this.
Exactly.
And it could get very upsetting. I cried the whole way home that day. And I'm like, but why? Why am I going through this? I'm struggling here. I'm fighting for my life here. I got these potent drugs running through my entire body, and I need negativity on top of that
Well,
when I am coming to work.
and Dina, that is that falls into such a real and raw category, right? Because
Yes,
that to me points out the reality that there are people, in this case, your supervisors, that will not know how to support us. They clearly maybe didn't even think about it, maybe didn't want to,
exactly.
maybe didn't know how, whatever it was.
Right.
But on the way home, instead of celebrating, I just did that, you
Right.
were feeling guilty about it because of their response to you. And that's sad. And it's an unfortunate reality, right?
It is an unfortunate reality, but I did learn from it. So
It's
that the
awesome.
next time it happened, I became a little bit more stronger, a little bit more demanding. And then I realized, wait a second, I have been in supervisory positions. And I know that when staff members come to you about an illness or a surgery, there are certain things put in place, like certain, rules and regulations. It's called HIPAA, in regard to, spreading the word here. So that's also can be a very big challenge for many people out there. Like we have talked about, who do we tell, when we tell, and who we don't want to tell.
Right.
You know, you worked from home, but I am sure that if I know you the way I know you, how did you feel with your clients when it comes to this kind of topic, subject, feelings?
It's interesting because we were in the middle of a few pretty big projects. And so hopping on client calls, I still remember not wanting them to know.
Mm-hmm.
Even those clients that I knew from past jobs and actually was pretty close with, I just did not want them to know because there was this underlying feeling of they will question my performance. And I
Ah,
want them to believe I've got this. Nothing's
right,
changed. I've got this. So that's a big front to put on. And that's a lot to ask of ourselves.
right.
So I didn't tell them. And I remember the first time I did this multiple times, but I remember the first time doing this with Marla. We were on a long client call talking about a website we were designing and developing. And actually, I had a wig on.
Mm-hmm.
And after the call, the client hung up and Marla and I stayed on and I ripped the wig off and it was like, I'm hot and it itches and
Oh, yeah.
it was like, and that was, Marla was actually thankful because I was able and comfortable to do that with her.
Right.
And I
Mm-hmm.
could not wait to. So back to your point of who we tell and who we don't tell has a big impact on how we show up with those people. And it's challenging to navigate those aspects of being yourself, being comfortable. What do I wear? How do I talk about how I might look? Because obviously we get pale, we lose our eyelashes, we lose our eyebrows, we lose our hair, all of that.
Exactly.
So Dina, how did your boss, your supervisors, did they ever come around to a better support of what you were going through?
Yes and no. Um, I've had multiple surgeries, and that was also something that was more of a unpleasant situation. In regard to one of the second or third surgeries I needed, a comment was passed. Oh, you have to have another surgery?
Oh,
Oh, at least it's not cancer. It was my reconstructive, surgeries.
are you kidding me?
No, I am not kidding you. So I I learned to confide in one or two of my coworkers, and they were my buffer between me and my supervisor.
Mm.
Unfortunately, I had to get human resources involved as well, because I would get phone calls back, when I was home from recovering from my surgeries, phone calls about when you're coming back, how many weeks you're going to be out. But, you're not healed yet. I need to fix the schedule. I need to know when you're coming back. And in reality, by law, I should have never, ever gotten a phone call. So like I said a little while ago, I learned to become stronger because of this. And I would say, I'm not discussing this with you, speak to human resources. That was my go-to line at this point. But unfortunately, it had to get to that point.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's the whole self-advocacy, right? That you had to figure out, what does that look like to me in this situation? And how do I dodge these types of questions, because it makes me feel awful.
Right. So a tip could be that if you want to dodge certain questions, you have to realize, or we have to realize, what we're willing to answer and what we're not willing to answer. And do we have somebody that we trust enough to help navigate the whole conversation? Like I had two friends, two coworkers, two people who also went through breast cancer. So that's why I felt so comfortable and trusting them that they would be the go-between.
Yeah.
I for so long, it was like, how you doing today? What's, how many more treatments you got? Are you going to do radiation? What kind of surgeries you're having? But like all of these questions you get shot at by people that just don't understand. So part of me had to say to myself, oh my gosh, they're being so personal. I can't take this. I don't want to talk about this anymore. But then I kept saying to myself, they don't understand. They don't know how to navigate somebody else's journey and how to support them. So I would tell the two people, okay, this is what we're going to do. You guys are going to be the go-between, because I can't keep talking about this day in and day out. Not doing it. And I would talk to them, and they would say what they needed to some of my coworkers, and really got involved with my two bosses as well. So that's one way to handle it.
So that made me think of a question, Dina, as far as with the people that you did not want to tell, because there were some clear people I did not want to tell.
Mm-hmm.
How did you navigate we have to be mindful of where we post in our social media? What are we sharing? Are we sharing pictures of ourselves? Are we sharing updates, and or how? I personally use Caring Bridge. And I did not say anything on social media. And people were kind of like, well, where are you on social? You've been it's been crickets or whatever. And it's like, I chose not to share anything on social media because I just didn't want to blast it out there. How did you handle that part?
I was on social media, but not consistently. I had one firehouse friend that he just loved the idea of me sharing the story, but I did it in a way that wasn't overwhelming. I did it when I wanted to. I really wasn't on it that much. So I wasn't blasting my entire story everywhere. But I had the support of my friends, my firehouse friends, my family, and a few coworkers. So they really were the ones that helped me navigate these areas of telling, when to tell, when not to tell, and all of that, And I also got pretty good at saying, please, thank you for your love and support, but I just can't talk about this right now.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point.
That was the first time I did that. I just wanted to crawl under the table. I was like, who do I think I am saying something like this to somebody who who's asking me? But then I said to myself, wait a minute. This is my journey. I can't go over this and over this and over this. Today I'm just not up to talking about this.
I love that. You set a clear boundary in honor
Yes.
of your own healing. And it's hard because we
It's
do
very
get hard
hard.
on ourselves sometimes with, ooh, is this going to sound too abrupt, or is this going to sound rude, but we need what we need,
Exactly.
and we got to
Yes.
navigate what we're navigating and ask for what we need from others. It's just so what tips would you, if you had to like sum it up into one or two things, what would you tell people about navigating this journey in their career? What would you say?
Once again, is that we have the choice. We have to be comfortable within ourselves to say, I don't want to tell this one. I will tell that one. Don't ask me 5 million questions on this. And just be able to be okay with it. There's no right or wrong way to do this. And you might hear that a lot from me, Maggie, because our journeys are so different. We're so unique in our own ways. What works for me might not work for you. And it's things like that. You wore a wig. I wore scarves. A lot of times I was bald. It was winter time. It depends on where I was. I took it off and I was just like, it's too hot in here. I don't care what you all think about my bald head.
I love that. I love that. And that takes an inner strength, and it's not like a quick and easy thing, but
Yes.
it's powerful.
So is there one thing that you'd like to mention before we end today?
I would say my biggest learning through the navigation of my challenges is to be gracious with myself and to allow in that love and support, because I was blessed with having it, but I was resistant to it at first because I thought I still needed to do everything.
Right.
And we don't, and we can't.
No.
So be gracious with yourself and give yourself what you need. And that means allowing in that support of others as well. So
yes. Great conversation today. Thank you.
Once again. All right. Thank you. Till next time.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you found value in today's episode.
And remember to share your real and raw insights with us by going to healinsideandout.com, where you can also find additional information and resources.